All right, we're very excited. Lisabeth Lange is here. I told my locals supporters, which just a shout out to anybody watching somewhere else, go to allisonmorrow.locals.com, or you can be on my editorial board and put questions ahead of time for interviews. Lisabeth is here, not really fresh out of Hollywood, but fresh out of the beginning of the end of Hollywood, maybe I'll call it. I don't know. Tell us a little bit about your background in casting.
Sure. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So I started actually in Hollywood working with a travel journalist for a few years, and that was strictly travel news. And then I moved on to casting, where this was when reality TV really kind of took off. It got pretty big. I want to say 2000, 2001, not sure, but right in that area, that's when it really got busy, and there were lots of casting directors, lots of shows being casted. So I worked for Extreme Home Makeover. Um, I did Biggest Loser. I did a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model search. I did a kids Survivor. It's called Endurance. And then I did The Simple Life, and I've done a lot of shows that were pilots that never made it to full primetime shows.
Okay, The Simple Life was Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, I was a producer at Fox News Channel when that show was out, and we had Nicole Richie come on our morning show.
Wonderful. Yeah.
What did you think about working with her? Just curious.
I liked her. I mean, I was
Okay.
never directly like interacting with her, but being around and through other people, yeah, I I liked her.
That's such an interesting experience. That was an interesting show. Okay, so you talk about here on your website, which people can go learn more about you at lisabethlang.com,
Yeah.
about your background. But one of the reasons we're talking is because you just wrote your first novel, right?
Yep.
Since manual. And this intersects a little bit with some of the stuff we'll talk about today, like media bias, propaganda. What Maybe you could give us a little bit about your book, but why did you want to write this and why those topics?
Sure. So the book is, I guess, the reason I wanted to write is it's a reflection. I felt like there were a lot of things not being addressed in media throughout my career, a lot of questions never being answered. I felt and I saw that more could be done or there could be better. It always can be better. Everything's full of potential, right? Including ourselves. And I felt I was lied to constantly. And then I started asking questions. What is that doing to me? What is that doing to my mind? And all the lies or all the negativity and what it's doing, not only individually, but what it would be doing on a collective conscience as well, because it is broadcast, nationally, locally, globally. And I just, those are questions I wanted answered. So I sort of explored it on my own and came up with a story, a fictional story, obviously, but I call it sort of a fictional expose, if you will, because I think every good story has truth in it. And the main character is looking for her truth and ends up discovering that, through the lies, what her truth is and what the truth is for humanity.
Okay, so when you talk about being lied to by the media, right? That's what you're talking about, like in the news.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we see Hollywood. Are they mirroring? In other words, are they the egg or the chicken? Like, is the news the cultivated news narrative driving Hollywood, or is the Hollywood fantasy world driving the news, or is it both?
I mean, yeah, I'd like to say they're both tools. I mean, I think the news is just a tool. It's an extension of something greater, and as well as Hollywood. Truly, if anything would have more claim, it would be the news. I think it's just a scripted. It's scripting our conversations. It's scripting what you're thinking about. It's scripting the dialogue, and that's huge. That's a huge, powerful thing, and we need to, I think, pull that back for individually.
Okay, going back over to your bio here on the website,
Mm-hmm.
you were bringing up all these reality shows,
Mhm.
like The Biggest Loser or Extreme Home Makeover. What do those shows have anything to do with this? Do they? Or are they just reality? Are they just reflecting reality like they claim to be reality shows?
Sure. I mean, it's real people. I guess you could say that. We casted, real people. These aren't actors. I mean, some of them I do believe getting into acting or going that direction in their lives. However, I think the reality term more so comes from that it's real people, but there are lots of story producers and lots of directions you can go with storylines in reality TV.
Mm-hmm. Okay, give me an example of, if you can think of one on just the spot like this, of a point on a show where it was like, well, this is how we want to spin the reality of it. Like we're watching from, we think this just genuinely happened, but it was not really as genuine as we like. Give me an example of how that works.
I mean, I wasn't on set all the time, but I have seen trying to get more angst out of a situation or trying, maybe somebody needs to cry.
Like, how do you do that?
You get alone time with them, with the producer and the cameraman, and I think they're going, I don't know what
Alone time with the producer.
testimonials, like one-on-one, and what can we get out of her or him. And yeah, I know there's a little push and pull there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's redo this, let's make this more this. Or
Okay, and what was the ultimate goal? Was it money, ratings, or social control?
wow, it's a
I
pretty
mean,
deep
the reason I
question.
bring this
I
up is,
mean,
well, the reason I bring this up is because people ask me all the time, or will say to me, like, the media is just about money and ratings. But actually, like, if you think about, there are certain stories like Jeffrey Epstein,
mhm,
which I think show that the media is not actually ultimately about money, it's about social
correct,
control.
correct,
Because they would run after a lot of these storylines, they would get significant ratings, but they don't, because
correct.
it runs
Right,
upstream, from whatever world they're trying to create. So I think
right.
power, Gates is a great example of this. I think power is far more important than money,
Yes,
to a lot of these people.
yes, and I agree with that with news. I do believe you're absolutely right about the news position, because with news, if it really truly were about ratings, they would cover a lot of other stuff. I think it's about control and controlling, like I said earlier, the dialogue, the narrative, what you're talking about, which is a great power. What you're thinking about, that's tremendous. And the goal, essentially, in the book is so we can reflect and get that power back and empower ourselves and have more reflection and have more of our own thoughts. I'm not saying that everyone's consumed by this, but it is. We live in a time where media is consuming. Period.
Hmm. All right. When you were doing casting, which you said was what, 15 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, like, with our daughter, we're very hesitant about movies, probably after that point in time, about 15 years ago, because it feels like that's when a lot of this, when I was in graduate school, let's say 2003 to 2007, so it was like 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was the beginning of this real shift, because I was in academics and in theology.
Mm-hmm.
So I was studying theology, which, religion, for instance, and all of these like big existential topics were being discussed. Of course, though, you couldn't really ask any questions if you had a differing opinion, because then it was the beginning of social media, and yeah, it was just an unsaid thing that, you were going to have the mob come after you if you did. So I don't know how much learning was actually going on, but I saw that, and I don't really know where it came from. I just remember thinking to myself, for instance, that, like, I could foresee that the transgender theory was
Mm-hmm.
going to eventually run up against feminist theory,
Mm-hmm.
because the feminists for decades were trying to say being a woman is not just putting on a skirt or having these certain body parts. You can't, we're trying to break up. My mom, she was the first class of women to go to the University of Virginia, and I don't wear pants. I think they had to wear skirts. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, feminists were trying to get out of that. Oh, we don't have to wear skirts. We can wear pants. A woman is not made of pants or skirts. And then I could
Right.
see that the transgender theory in class was like, well, if you just identify as wearing a skirt and you have boobs, then you're a woman. And I'm like, this is reinforcing stereotypical gender norms. How is this going to work? I mean, I could just see that ahead of time, but I don't know
Yeah.
where. Tell me a little bit about what was the shift? What changed in Hollywood?
Well, I'm sure it was always there. I mean, I may not have been aware of it or not because I was very much, I would say, surface level. And you can go pretty deep there. So I would consider myself surface, but I did see many criteria that we needed to cast for certain, check certain boxes of certain types of people, certain types of looks. Sure. I wouldn't say it's as prevalent as it probably is today. I'm not sure, but yeah, it would make me uncomfortable. Definitely.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I just meant like generally speaking. Okay, say like another pivotal moment for the news business was when Trump was elected,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like psychotic in the newsroom. I mean, they thought it would be a good idea to go to a kindergarten class and get video of kids crying because somebody got a tip that kids were crying when they got to school. And I'm sitting here like, are these people nuts?
Stupid. I think that's so stupid.
Yeah, but it was, I mean, it like turned journalists psychotic. I mean, I
Right.
wouldn't say that we were good at our jobs beforehand, but it was like near, a neurosis at that point.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and to the extent that like, then on Twitter, all of a sudden it became okay to share your opinion and like have a zinger as a journalist, if you, as
Yep.
long as you were like, anti these things and like the bosses were okay with it. I don't know. But so Trump was another shift, and then COVID was another shift. It was like the faucet just kept getting turned on. It like started with diversity, then Trump was like another turn of the knob,
Right.
and then COVID was another turn of the knob, and I don't even know like what's happening now, but those are like a few. So was there anything like that you were like, okay, yeah, this was when I noticed like a real, pivotal moments, and for what reason exactly? I mean, I could tell you in the news business is because a lot of these journalists, they were hook, line, and sinker believers in the fact that we had like a Nazi for a president and the world was going to completely combust under him.
Right. And that has no business in journalism at all. I mean, you're supposed to subtract yourself out of the equation. And honestly, like, no offense to you, but that's why I didn't go into journalism because I saw that 20 years ago as a student in journalism. And I was like, wait, that's not right. And that doesn't align with my integrity. And I don't want to be told what to say and what to write about. And just because someone else deems it important, it's not about someone's opinion, what's important or not. It's that you just put the information out there and that the people are supposed to decide for themselves. If it was true journalism, we would have a bunch of dissenting information and opinions, or you would just be able to have both sides of a story or 50 sides to a story if that's what it took. And you would be able to make that decision, not somebody else making that decision for you. So I knew early on I could not do news because I saw it 20 years ago. I think it's very controlled. It's too much of a powerful thing to not be controlled and to not be used for someone's benefit.
Okay, in a second, I want you to tell me though, what is the big difference between that and what Hollywood or what these shows do that you were working on? Is it because at least you're not trying to say it's news, it's fake? Everyone should just know it's fake, and so who cares? But first, let me just tell everybody about something that's not fake.
Yes.
This is very real wine. It's amazing wine. If you go to AllisonWinePromo.com, Christmas is almost here. Get your order in. These are my extremist altitude Malbecs from Argentina. They're all from over 6,000 feet, between 6 and 9,000 feet. And from handpicked grapes, small family farms, one over 200 years old, extremely high, like I said. They're the extremist wines that will not get you thrown in federal prison yet, I don't think. So if you want to support my work, you're a wine drinker, go check it out. AllisonWinePromo.com. You get 50% off the wine and 50% off shipping. It's a great gift for whatever party you're not looking forward to. It'll make anything better because you're going to get to tell them that it's wine with a cause. It keeps people like me in business. And maybe it'll strike up a conversation or an argument that will make the time go faster. Okay? AllisonWinePromo.com. Also, if you go to greenpasture.org and you use the promo code Allison10, or just check out all the links in the description, pinned comment. There's other products down there, but you can use the affiliate link there for the vitamin D cod liver oil. butter oil blend that I take. I've been taking it for, I guess, since like probably 2010, 2011. And I used to have cavities all the time. It healed my cavities naturally. It's got omega fats. It's just a great product. They've got a bunch of different products here, but this is the one I take, the fermented cod liver oil and concentrated butter oil blend. Okay. And it's a great way to support my work too. Allison10 at greenpasture.org. And then finally, if you're a coffee drinker, go over to twinenginecoffee.com/Allison. We've got light roast. We've got dark roast. We have, what else do we have here? We've got the tea. So if you're a tea drinker, this is the fruit that's around the coffee bean. It's really good. I like to cold brew mine, even in wintertime. And they've got all kinds of things. Espresso. I drink espresso with my raw milk latte every day. twinenginecoffee.com/Allison, not the promo code Allison10. Just use the twinenginecoffee.com/Allison and your support will go to me. Okay. So let's go back to my question. So you're saying like you knew you couldn't go into the news business because it's just a bunch of lies, and scripted reality that just trying to like control what people think. But what's the big difference with entertainment? Isn't that what they want to do?
Okay, true. I guess in the beginning, I felt like it was less, that it wasn't as, overt, the control. But yeah, of course, I see it now and I saw it when I was in it. Entertainment, it should be lighter and it should be more purely for entertainment. However, it does dictate a culture and a narrative, definitely. I guess I felt it was less invasive than the news per se, but
I was thinking if we just came on at like 5 or 6 o'clock and said, welcome to the 5 o'clock news. This is the best we could do with what we had time to learn about today, that like, at least we would be authentic about it.
Yes.
And then I would feel fine going on air actually, because I wasn't like, I didn't know something and say something else. I just didn't know what I was talking about. I was one of the many journalists, frankly, who just did not know what she was talking about. But I didn't know enough to know what I didn't know for a long time. And finally, when I did see my blind spots, that's when I eventually quit because I knew the system wasn't going to change.
Right.
So I wasn't, I couldn't anymore. Now I was, essentially I was lying to people, I guess, if you would call it, like, presenting myself as an authority when I really wasn't. Correct. When I finally realized I wasn't an authority, then I was like, I just can't do this anymore. So, all right, well, let me take a couple questions at AllisonMara.locals.com. Don't forget, y'all, it's $5 a month and you get so much value out of it. You get to put questions in ahead of time for interviews. You get an exclusive media analysis show every week. You get updates whenever I get booted off of YouTube. It's just fun, okay? Grumpy Old Man, when did the casting change? It seems about 2020 or 2021. I don't know. You're talking about a lot earlier than that.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Definitely. I mean, as far as reality TV, when did that all start? Like I said, maybe
And why did reality TV start?
That's a good question because it's not very good TV. It's like a adult cartoon in a way. I mean, it's, but people like to watch. I mean, I guess for entertainment purposes only, it is nice to see people you can relate to, perhaps, more relatable to your average viewer.
Yeah.
It's more content.
Like a lot of the shows, it seems like it turns out we find out dark secrets about the people and it wasn't really so it feels like there has to be some level of manipulation intended with these shows. It's not just reality because they know it's not really reality,
right?
But they're obviously wanting to present a certain narrative. I don't know. So people at home watching will want to be more like this or buy the stuff at the commercial break or what?
Or just at the end of the day, it's all distraction. I mean, distraction from real topics, real news, real information, truth, perhaps. I mean, it's the inundation of messages, always coming at you. And then you're, in a sense, you're not thinking your own thoughts, are you? I mean, you're talking about this, you're reading this, you're seeing that, you're hearing this. I mean, it's all coming from outside of you. So is it a distraction? Partially. To keep you complacent.
Okay, critical thought. Please ask her, who is at the root of the narrative driving? Are there puppeteers or is it organic, like the atmosphere that you observed in the newsrooms? If she can make any definitive claims, can she point us to any evidence for further study?
Root of the narrative driving.
I think if I can translate that a little bit, meaning
Mhm.
more like, because they're talking about organic in the news business, a lot of people in the news business really believe what they're doing and
Okay.
saying. They don't they're not like critical of the COVID vaccine, but they get paid by Pfizer. So they
Right.
say it's great. They love the COVID vaccine.
Right.
You don't have to force them to go on TV and run interference for it. So what about, I think that's kind of the question is like, are there true believers? Is there a puppeteer, that's pulling the strings? Okay, it was like the one guy at the top that said, we're going to do it this way because this is how we make money. Um, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I can't answer that definitively. I mean, I don't know of a specific person. I know media is ginormous and it's all connected. And what you think are three companies, what you think are 20 companies is actually only three companies. It's so heavily contained and controlled, just because of the effect it can have. So I
Mhm.
can't say definitively. Sorry, I'm not sure.
That's okay. Okay, Scott McVicker. Homogeneity, the goal of erasing all individuality, races, gender expressions, sexes, economic strata, religions, countries, differences in beliefs, etc., all towards the goal of simplified top-down management, administration, control. In the Matrix, each human served as a battery interchangeable with everyone else. That is how the narrative desires to see those as in everyone it wishes to control. Casting choices can be seen as a visual expression of this desire. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, that's a really nice thought. Thanks, Scott. I like that. Actually, because in my book, I do talk a lot about our own energy and our own frequency and what's happening there and what's happening when we're consuming these things that aren't, our organic thoughts and are coming from us. So,
Mhm. Give me
um,
an example since we're talking about your book today too. Give me an example of that. Or like tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that, your frequency or how you feel the messages we're consuming
mhm.
change us.
Sure. So, I think we all do have a frequency and we are energy and your thoughts are energy. So if your thoughts they're not only coming from you, right? Like I just said, you're receiving a lot of input, a lot of stimuli, right? And a lot of messages, whether or not you're believing them or not, it doesn't matter. It's the point that it's coming at you and it's not your own. So I believe, you know, next step, that it's taking over some of your energy, it's harnessing your energy, it's stealing it per se. Um, I'm not. Then therefore, there's individual, and then there's a collective conscious. So individually, if I'm just fed all these negative thoughts and just bad things, that's going to really take a toll on me. And then think about what that's doing to the collective conscious, to us as a species. If you're just, I'm not saying it's all negative, but in general, it is a lot of just trash and negativity. And it's not, therefore, you're not getting to your next level in your thoughts. And as a society or as humanity, we're also not.
Okay, Ricka Height, what is actually said during casting that proves or can prove what we already know? I don't know if that, I mean, maybe is there stuff out like maybe this relates to this question. FT this noise. How much of any pressure was there to cast non-whites and or females? I think that's what both of them are kind of going after.
Sure. Like I said, I think early on it wasn't so, there wasn't a lot of pressure for that, but you definitely had types of people and personalities that you wanted. And you do need, when I was working in it, it was about balance, female, male, all that. I didn't, so for me personally, I didn't have the experience to say you had to do exactly this person or this type of person, but I'm sure that's changed.
How do you keep your sanity working in the asylum?
I don't work in the asylum anymore. That's why I started writing.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
I truly wanted to get into it to do something good with it because I don't think you can change anything unless you're inside of it.
Well,
So
what do you hope this does?
sure. So I would love for the novel to give people some power back, find their own voices, to be inspiring, and to just like I said, get our empowerment back. The way to reclaim a country or reclaim anything is to reclaim yourself. And part of that is taking your thoughts back and taking our power back.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that. Because it sounds like you're telling people self-awareness is key, but
Sure.
how do you like it's I know your book is fiction, but
Mhm.
obviously it's based in some reality that you're very passionate about. How do you encourage people, like how would you say now, or maybe it's in the book, uh, for people to go down that path? Like if you were to teach a class for
Sure.
journalists or anybody about self-awareness, what practically speaking would you tell people to do? How do you do it? How do you become self-aware?
Well, I think one of the first steps is just turning it all off. And I know it sounds
What do you mean by turning it all off?
turning the TV off for
Okay,
one.
TV off. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
just turn the television off. Having a lot more boundaries with our usage of devices. And I know that it sounds, like I'm a hypocrite because I am here speaking with you via a media platform, and it does have wonderful capabilities and good things for people to connect. However, I do think a balance needs to be struck. And so I would say turning it off, having boundaries, and getting outside in nature are three things that are really, that I'm really passionate about. So, and that sort
Mhm.
of comes through in the novel because the story does go through what's being done to nature in order to control humanity as well.
Huh. Yeah, it's really an interesting topic because as an environmental reporter, and
Mhm.
I've said this many, many times, I'm very uh concerned about like microplastics, for instance,
Right.
or uh like Roundup use and all. Oh, we got a potty break. We need to take a potty break real fast, Elizabeth. So let me just okay, let's go. Elizabeth, can you tell people where to follow you real fast? I'll be right back.
Of course. Okay. Joy. Joy the potty break. So my website is lisabethlane.com, LISABETHLANGE, excuse me. And my Instagram is Lisabeth Lane Author. Facebook is just Lisabeth Lane. That's where I'm most active right now. I do not have a Twitter yet, but I'm being persuaded, not Twitter, I'm sorry, X. I'm being persuaded to get on X, so I will eventually do that. And of course, through my website, you can email me. Be happy to talk with many of you, any of you.
Okay, perfect. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so I obviously, like I was saying, I care
Yeah.
very deeply about the environment. I often think the climate change uh, debate,
Mhm.
hysteria versus like, I don't know. I wonder now because I didn't ever question it
Mhm.
when I was in. Now looking back on it, it kind of makes me wonder if it's, purposefully divisive because it creates like two factions. One that is like that's all they talk about, that's the biggest thing, and then there are all these like significantly pressing problems for the environment, like
Mhm.
even just our detergents and the estrogenic compounds in our soaps going into
Right.
water or even like on our skin. It affects fish, male fish in Puget Sound, male salmon. They're a threatened
Right.
species, endangered species, and they're producing egg yolk protein because of all the estrogenic compounds from
Mhm.
our daily products that are going through the wastewater treatment plants going in. I could name so many that like never get any attention because we're
Right.
just talking about climate change constantly. And
Right.
then it kind of on the other side, then you have those people that if it's like, well, because climate change captivates the monopoly over
Mhm.
concern over the environment, then the pendulum swings to the other side where people are like, well, I'm not gonna care because I'm being lied to about this. I'm just not gonna trust anything. I'm not gonna care at all about the environment. I don't want to talk about it at all. And to
Right.
me, that it just seems like such an evil divide. It keeps one group, it's like they don't care about anything but that. And
Right.
then the other group doesn't want to hear anything about the environment because they think the second you start talking about the environment, you drive a Prius and you want to take away their gas stove. and and I don't know. I mean, I just have found that very interesting. I mean, it was a
Right.
religion in Seattle for sure. You really couldn't question it in the Seattle area. And when
Mhm.
you did, you're just looked at. Like I even remember one time interviewing one of the water alliances, the water clean water alliances, about the problem with homeless camps and essentially feces
Mhm.
and just a lot of other pollution going into the water. And they
Sure.
were like scared about going on the record talking about that. They were very careful about what they said because so like climate change, I mean, it was just environmentalism is very political. And I didn't realize that when I first
Mhm.
got into it. That's part of the reason, again, why I was saying earlier when I had this wake up call where I realized just how political it was and how I was being used day in and day out as a pawn. And I
Right.
didn't have enough time to research and call BS on people. I was like, well, I'm just being used. I just can't do this anymore. And but it does. It just it's too bad because to your point about like spending time out in quiet, like hiking a mountain
Mhm.
or out on the beach or something like that. I mean, that is one of the main things that changed me as a human being was
Right.
moving to the Washington State area, and I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anyone, and I would take my dog on hikes every weekend,
Mhm.
and I spent for the first time in my life hours in silence, out
Oh,
distracted
you're
by, oh, I froze. Am I
yeah,
back?
it's okay.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, I was by myself for the first time, hours and hours of not talking, which clearly that's not my natural inclination is to just be talking all the
Right.
time and to be distracted. And it was very transformative for me.
Mhm. Right.
Because I think what happened was like I finally became comfortable with silence and
Yeah.
myself in silence. I didn't need all this other stuff. And then because I was comfortable alone in silence, it was like with God, I didn't worry about having all this other stuff taken from me anymore because
Right.
I was like finally comfortable enough without all of it. Okay, if I lose my friends, whatever. I've been 8 hours on
Mhm.
this mountain with no friends. I'm okay.
Right.
And when you're in the mountains, like money doesn't make a difference. And all this stuff, you just start to realize like you just how simple life really can be. And I think that's another reason why we have a small homestead now in Florida. Like we're really interested in raising our own food and stuff, just being connected tangibly to the world, like the actual natural world around us. I do think it's very transformative. Is there something that you did that was like part of your story, your childhood, or your growing up through being in these Hollywood shows that changed you in that way?
Right. So I'll answer that, but I have two things to say about what you were saying prior to
Yeah.
that, about the environmental news. But yeah, I grew up actually in a state forest, and it was the best thing ever as a child. Just I was in nature every day, every single day, and I think that's just really stayed with me. I grew up in Wisconsin, so I had just moved to LA for work, but yeah, nature I think is so healing in many, many ways. And therefore, if you have that solitude, like you were speaking of, I think when you do come back to having to work or the media or dealing with things, you just come from a different place when you have that, not a foundation, but when you've had that transformative experience with nature. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually do say that in the book, one of the characters goes through something, and that's the power of nature. It has the ability to transform you, even in its stillness, even in its quiet, which is truly amazing. But back what you were saying about the environmental stories, two things. It really, I think environmental stories in the news can create apathy, actually, which is that what they're trying to get out of you? Like when I'm receiving a message about the horrible destruction and environmental destruction or whatever it may be, as a viewer, that just seems way too large for me to do something about it. What can I do on my personal level to do something about it, even though it's this ginormous oil spill in the ocean? That just creates apathy. What am I? That makes me immobile almost, because it's too big, it's too much. So that's one problem I have with environmental news. Secondly, with the climate change, if it was truly, I believe if it was coming from a place of true care and concern about our planet or environment or whatever, I'm talking about the news or the media or the coverage of it, then what would be happening is we would be getting kids out in nature and we'd be getting people out in nature to create a relationship with nature and to create a care for nature. Then you see the action. It's not just somebody telling you, oh, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to pay more money for this, or you have to do that's not how you save the environment. You save it by creating a relationship with it. And that's a natural way of, I think, getting change.
Mhm. I agree. And you know, in different places are going to have different issues and need different solutions. And I don't know.
Right.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think a small group of neighbors can do a lot more, or even
Mhm.
just, I think another thing that unfortunately gets missed when the news is like hammering in this sort of high level issue, like we're having a global summit on this or whatever, is
Mhm.
the little choices that people can make every day. Like I said, what soap are you using? Where
Mhm.
do you buy your meat? You know, all this kind of stuff. Vegetables, you know, like whatever, like all your little choices every day
Right.
that get missed, because, you know, I don't know. I mean, I maybe because then we'll keep going back. Like Al Gore, I remember, came to speak in Seattle and I covered it. And here he's talking all about how like we're going to be underwater soon. And like the one thing that a lot of people can do for like water quality, for instance, so that, you know, we don't have dead zones, for instance, at the mouth of the Mississippi, is be careful what kind of food you're buying so that we're not overusing fertilizers, you know, chemical
Mhm.
fertilizers and stuff like that. Um, and yet, you know, Gore's lunch was, you know, a bunch of food that was shipped from all kinds of places that, you know, it's like we have all these farms locally. Like, why didn't you source your food local, you know, from
Right.
responsible regenerative farmers or whatever? Like, you know, you could have actually done something, but it just, you know, it makes you wonder if it's just talk.
Right.
Okay, final question. Lisabeth, what is your current passion? How would you define it?
Oh, wow. Good question. I guess my current passion right now is to be communicating with people about the book and to be interacting with people about it. So thank you so much, Allison, and viewers. Thank you. Um, I'm always writing and always, keep asking questions for myself. And I'm actually trying to work on myself with learning some more meditation and guided visualization. I'm really trying to work on that right now. And I'm also working with Adam with Ron Speak Publishing, and we're looking
Mhm,
for our next manuscript. So if
mhm.
anyone,
Yes,
other writers,
we should give Adam a shout out.
yeah, Adam.
He's been on a couple times. Let me just pull. Yeah, he's. I love his Twitter handle. It says president of Ain't
Yeah.
Blackistan. Hang on, here we go. How did you guys meet? How did you guys connect?
Wow. We actually met, I think it was 2.5 years ago in Tampa. We were both at the same conference. And
Very
that's
cool.
where we met. Great. Instant friends.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's been on many
Mhm.
times, and he's always interesting to listen to. Okay,
Yeah.
well, Elizabeth, any final thoughts about the book or anything else before we go?
Um, yeah, please let's read the book and let's get inspired and start, moving towards a better world for ourselves, for yourself and globally. So,
Cool. Okay. Well, Elizabeth, thank you for doing this.
thank
Thanks for
you.
rolling with the freezes and the kids and the potty break and all that stuff.
I love
Thanks,
potty
everybody.
breaks.
Say that again.
I love potty breaks.
Oh, good. Yeah, I take them a lot too. I
Yeah.
forgot to tell people too, if you want to send me support or just a card, Christmas card, Happy New Year, a letter, I'd love to hear from you. I know some people don't use credit cards, so I've had some people just send me letters with, you know, you got some loose change or whatever you want to put in an envelope, send it my way. PO Box 3355, Denellen, Florida 34432. Just no creepy things. Just nothing creepy. I don't want to have to send the cops after you. All right. Okay. All right, everyone. Have a great week. See you next time.